Thank you. I'm sorry to be a little bossy. I want you to stay standing because we're going to read Psalm 62 together this morning before we get started. So, and I made a little mistake on the second, so she's going to flip it. You'll see. Okay, let's read, ladies, all of this together. Psalm 62. I am at rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I will never be shaken. How long will you threaten a man? Will all of you attack as if he were a leaning wall or a tottering fence? They only plan to bring him down from his high position. They take pleasure in lying. They bless with their mouths, but they curse inwardly. Selah. Rest in God alone, my soul, for my hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I will not be shaken. My salvation and glory depend on God, my strong rock. My refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is our refuge. Selah. We're going to switch. There we go. Common people are only a vapor. Important people an illusion. Together on a scale, they weigh less than a vapor. Place no trust in oppression or false hope in robbery. If wealth increases, don't set your heart on it. God has spoken once. I have heard this twice. Strength belongs to God, and faithful love belongs to you, Lord, for you repay each according to his works. Thank you so much. You guys can sit down. I love how this group grows every time we turn around. Good morning. We made it through the year of January. So, welcome to February. It's going to be short, sweet, and a little bit warmer, I think. Oh my goodness. So, when I was here 2 weeks ago, I spoke on dependence on God, and it was really so fun to go through that and highlight what it means to depend on God in our independent worlds, especially because this is very countercultural and not always easy for us to do. And then I looked ahead at the week of this week and looked and saw that it was trust. And then I was thinking, aren't those two things the same a little bit? Trust and dependence. The idea of trusting someone and depending on someone are often very interchangeably used in our language. And while they are familiar in thought, and go hand in hand, they are actually different. So I'm going to define this real quick for us. Trust is the inner conviction, confidence, and faith that we can have in God's character, his goodness, and his promises. Like Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Dependence is the outward act of reliance on God as our source of life, strength, and provision. Like in John 15:5, where it says that God is the vine and we are the branches. If we remain in him, then we will bear much fruit. That is dependence. So trust is the belief, and dependence is the application of that belief in our life. So we're going to talk about trust today. When I dug into Psalm 62, I was really overwhelmed by the beauty of the imagery that David and the words that David uses to describe God and who he is. A lot of it is repetitive, but it's really beautiful and strong. Peppered all throughout this passage are words and ideas from David describing who he knows God to be because of his history with him. Some of the psalm is a little bleak because I think David feels a little bit fragile, and it sounds like he may even be running from someone or is distressed. But he still blesses God in this song prayer and praises him for who he knows him to be. And so you can throw up that slide. I just kind of jotted down some of these strong words. A lot of these were also repeated. But David is saying, God is my salvation, a fortress, hope, rock, refuge, rest, strong and loving. And all of those words put together kind of give us this beautiful picture, kind of like the pictures we just saw behind those songs, honestly. This is a very strong belief in God. I love the words, and I hope that these can encourage us in our prayers, because he's blessing God through all of this as he's trusting him. And David would know this. He would be the guy, because he has a lot of history with the fact that when we have nowhere to turn, God is often doing his very best work. At the beginning of David's young life, God intentionally chose him, the least qualified, youngest brother, the smallest guy, to fight Goliath. Because in the impossible times, when trust is placed in him, it can become our enemy's worst nightmare, and we can see God's wonderful story unfolding. So he uses those times of absolutely no other option to show his best and most amazing attributes. I love the beautiful blessings that David gives towards God amidst this trial. He often also, throughout this psalm, speaks of the unshakable peace from God alone, and he highlights that and describes that. So I'm going to go over 3 words that are used in this psalm from kind of in the Hebrew form so that we can understand them better. The first one is ak, and it is used 6 times in this psalm, and it means only, surely, indeed, and it's translated in our Bibles often as only or alone. It is used repeatedly throughout this scripture for emphasis when David is talking about God being salvation or a rock or something strong. He often is pairing that word, ak, as only God or God alone. Alone he is my rock. When he uses such beautiful, strong imagery of God, he is saying that there is no other thing, nothing else that will ever help him. It is only God. David is showing his trust without even saying the word trust, by simply stating that there is nothing else. It is only God. It is only God. It is only God. He repeats that so many times. He does use the word trust 1 time, and it's in verse 8, which is a beautiful verse, and it says, "Trust in him at all times. You people, pour out your hearts before him. God is a refuge for us." This word trust comes from the Hebrew word, you can switch it to the next one, batah, indicating that trust with confidence and security, and it mirrors the thought that it cannot be shaken. It is the sense of well-being and security that results from having a God in whom to place confidence. And then my favorite word in this one is, this was kind of an aha word for me because it kind of snuck up on me. Sorry, you can change it. This word is used right at the beginning, and it's used in the very middle of this psalm. And it is dumaya. And it is the thought of silence, of still waiting, being still, and of reverent silence before God. Another way that we say this in our language is rest. David was kind of a disaster at times, and in trouble a lot of the time, and a lot of time on the run, and always needed God's peace, and calls out for that so often. So it kind of struck me that really what he is saying is that the most beautiful way of trusting God is to rest in him, using rest as a form of trust. Trust and rest are deeply connected. Rest is not merely sleep or sitting down and doing nothing, but it is a confident reliance on God's sovereignty and his promises. Resting is an act of faith, indicating that trusting in God, that he will take care of things, he will sustain us, and that we do not have to carry the burden of control. I really liked that message. When our lives are very complicated and chaotic, or painful or purposeless, I wonder how much we strive rather than rest. I do this very well, very well. A plus right here. And I wonder if some of you do too, because we try to fix everything in our homes, in our relationships. We try to curb our own bad habits, have better health. We balance a lot of spinning plates in our lives, and we do it all in our own strength often. We say that we trust God, but our pace of life often says otherwise. We are fascinated with things that cannot make us whole or save us. We run on empty and call it faith. But what we need to do is to abide, to rest. The word abide is a derivative of this word. It is the quietness and stillness before God that indicates our trust in Him. It is calm, patient, expectant soul rest in God. Not passive inaction and just sitting there, and also not frantic worrying. It's abiding, resting, and trusting. And I think that this is hard for us because just like it is really hard to have dependence on God in a world that makes us feel independent and need to be independent, we often have a hard time trusting because our own trust has been broken. I know that in my own story, it started with a very bright, hopeful, and joyful childhood, and by the end of 9th grade, I had been betrayed by all the people that were closest to me, the ones that I trusted to keep our family together and in one piece. That did not just fracture my trust in people, it smashed it, shattered it, and then threw all the pieces in the wind. And I wonder if anybody has broken your trust. Paul David Tripp says, "We all face things that appear to make little sense and don't seem to serve any good purpose. So rest is never found in the quest to understand it all. No, rest is found in trusting the one who understands it all and rules it all for His glory and our good." It is hard to trust God when we feel broken by the things of this world. But the beautiful part of this is that He can be trusted because He has a perfect track record. He's never let us down. He alone, Ak, is our rock and our hiding place. And true biblical rest comes from God, from trusting that God is in control and allows us to relinquish our anxiety, find peace, and wait patiently for His timing. He knows how the story ends, and He has us, and we can trust in Him. So it's really hard to think of examples of this trust because, like, that rest that we all, I think, strive for, I just kept, like, breathing deep when I was reading this, like, okay, I want to have that rest and that trust. It's so good that we know that He will never let us down. And I was thinking this week about a little visual that I could give you guys. So I'm just hold on a second. Okay. Oh, I know. Our insides are quivering right now. Props to Laura because this is Maverick and Beth. I was like, can I just borrow him for a couple minutes? Okay, are we going to be able to finish this? Okay, sorry. Thank you, Beth. This is a purely selfish motive here that I needed this prop today, but I have a reason. Babies are practically perfect. They really are. They smell like heaven. They look like angels. But that's how babies are. And that's why they're so beautiful, because they are actually a picture often of abiding. They do not, I know, right? They don't tell us how to do things. They don't have ideas of what kind of clothing they need to be wearing, how to keep their skin moist, their toes warm. They don't take control. That is why I didn't borrow a toddler. I borrowed a newborn. Thank you. I'm talking newborns here, okay? We got to stick with the visual. Babies just are. They just are. They rest in the arms of the ones who love them. And even though they cry and get upset, just like we do, when they are cradled and cared for, they are very good at resting. And they can be at perfect peace in the arms of their mom, their dad, their grandma, Auntie Marie, whatever, whoever, you know. Babies simply allow and abide in the love and guidance and nourishment that comes from the ones that love them. They sleep in peace with full confidence that they will be cared for. What a better example for us when we need a little help remembering what it really is to trust in God. May we breathe deeply and abide in his arms and trust him in a way that does not take over, does not try to figure it out on our own, but rather trust in him who has it all worked out. And now we're just going to stare for a minute because you're doing a really good job. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to pray over us because I think this is a beautiful psalm for us to remember praying through as we trust in God. And when we don't trust him, to just keep praying and believe that he will work through our hearts to trust him more. So Psalm 62, 5 through 7, I just kind of made it personal for us. For you are God alone. Oh, our souls, may we wait in silence, for our hope is from you. You only are our rock and our salvation, our fortress. We will not be shaken. On you, God, rests our salvation and our glory, our mighty rock. Our refuge is in you. Amen. Laura, I'll return him in a couple hours. Thank you. Have a beautiful morning, ladies. I know it.